Morning all, happy Saturday. I'm wearing a Cincinnati Stingers jersey to start things off today. I want to talk about 9 skaters, so forwards and defensemen, 2 goaltenders, who I think may have a hard time repeating the totals that they've had this past season because, career years happen and sometimes just numbers are ridiculous. And we'll start off with one of the 2 goaltenders. Do the goalies first here. For Minnesota, Philip Gustafson. Now, when Gustafson arrived from Ottawa, there was some doubt about what he might do at the NHL level from some, but anybody who had any doubts about him were proved wrong pretty quickly. 931 save percentage to go with a 22-9-7 record, 2.10 goals against average. Those numbers are crazy, but repeating them is going to be difficult. We know the Minnesota Wild, for instance, a team that's got their cap issues and all that, is it going to negatively impact the on-ice product? It could, and it could make it tougher for Gustafson to keep those numbers up. Now, the other goaltender, well, it's got to be the one from Boston, doesn't it? It's not Swayman. Ullmark. Now, Ullmark had as close to a perfect regular season as I've ever seen. 46-1 record, 938 save percentage, 1.89 goals against average. So Shesterkin the year before had an amazing year. He was not able to replicate that because, again, it's virtually impossible to replicate that kind of a season. Ullmark is still, I think, going to be a very good goaltender, but we know Boston without Bergeron, likely without Krejci as well. For the Bruins, it's going to be more of a challenge this year, and so I would look for Ullmark's numbers to drop. I know it's not a revolutionary idea, but those are the 2 goalies I came up with. Number 9 amongst the players. May have been a career year. Could have been a career year, absolutely, for Vince Dunn. For Vince Dunn, he played 81 games, 14 goals, 50 assists, 64 points. I like Dunn. I think Vince Dunn's an excellent defenseman. I think it'll be tough to match that 64-point total. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he hit 70, but again, when you look at his career averages, that 64 points really stands out. And so we'll see if he can maintain that this coming year for the Seattle Kraken. Number 8, a New York Islander. And I went back and forth on whether or not to have him on the list. In fact, I was going to do 8 players and 2 goaltenders to make it the even 10, but I was like, no, Horvat has to be on the board. Because for Horvat, and I kind of feel like I'm piling on here, but I'm going to say that in New York, it'll be difficult to equal those 38 goals. It's the same reason I almost put Scheifele on the board, but Scheifele's point total was below his career average in terms of points per game. Just 42 goals will be difficult to repeat. But for Horvat, 38 goals. The 70 points I think he can reach with the Islanders, but 38 goals, 32 assists, 70 points. It might be difficult to match that stat line over 79 games this year. The Islanders just don't play a style that I think suits Horvat's goal scoring from Vancouver. And we saw that goal scoring drop off when he reached the Islanders, and I would not be surprised to see him more in the 25 goal range this year. But again, I could still see him around the 70-point mark. I think that 38 goals stands out. Next up, and people are going to feel like I'm picking on the Kraken. I'm not. I promise. And I'm picking McCann on this one. So from Dunn to McCann. The thing with McCann, so 79 games, 40 goals, 30 assists, 70 points. Great year for McCann. Absolutely loved his game. And I think he's going to continue to be excellent. I look at this season and it seems familiar and similar to the William Karlsson season the first year in Vegas. Now, the difference, of course, being that McCann's been in the league longer than Karlsson had at that point. Nobody knew what Karlsson was going to do there. We've seen McCann's goal-scoring ability. He was a former first-round draft pick. But I think 40 goals in back-to-back seasons, probably a bit of a tough ask. And this is a tough list to put together because scoring has gone up. Scoring in general does fluctuate wildly. We could see scoring drop next year. We could see it go up again. But McCann's 40 goals are going to be tough to repeat, especially as Seattle starts incorporating other players into the lineup and just, the depth takes over. It'll be tough for McCann to get 40 goals again. Not saying he can't, but it's going to be tough. Number 6, Jamie Benn. Jamie Benn had a very strong bounce-back season during the regular year. The playoffs, a bit more difficulty here and there, but he's 34 years of age, 82 games played this past season, 33 goals, 45 assists, 78 points. So for Jamie Benn, he didn't miss a game during the regular season. Of course, then he gets suspended during the postseason, which a lot of people will take note of. But the regular season, him bouncing back to 78 points is fantastic, but he is 34 years of age. It does get more difficult. Interestingly enough, I don't have Pavelski on the board. And the reason I didn't pick Pavelski with Dallas as well as Benn is Pavelski will still be playing with Robertson and Hintz. I just don't see his production dropping off. Benn, on the other hand, I could see his production dropping off. He had a really nice bounce back year, but again, in your mid-30s, it's really hard to maintain that. And I do think Pavelski will, but we'll see. Because Pavelski, I absolutely could have justified putting Pavelski on the board, but then there would have been people saying, but he's still playing with Robertson and Hintz this year, right? And I don't have an answer to that. Number 5, also looking at a player's birth certificate, Claude Giroux. So for Claude Giroux, he had a nice bounce back season. He's 35 years of age. In 82 games, he recorded 35 goals, 54 assists, or 44 assists, 54 assists. I'm giving him extra points. 44 assists for 79 points. Claude Giroux, same as Benn, the difference being that for Giroux, it was a huge bounce back season for his career in Ottawa. He produced very, very well. But mid-30s, odds are that production drops off a bit. So I would say probably the 60 to 65 point range for Giroux this year. And then you're looking, if you're an Ottawa fan, you're looking for that offense to come from guys like Norris, from the addition of Kubalik, from the addition of Tarasenko. And so, yeah, then you are absorbing both the loss of DeBrincat as well as any kind of drop Giroux has. I could see Giroux's goals being dropped down to 25, 26. And again, his points total around 60. I could see that. Number 4 on the board. This one was tough because he's a player I like quite a bit. So, yeah, this one not easy, but Alex Tuch. So, before anybody says, is he going to put Thompson up there? No, Tage Thompson, I think that's definitely a player that can actually improve his totals next year. He's due for a 50-goal season, but for Tuch, 36 goals, 43 assists for 79 points in 74 games. Alex Tuch's never recorded above a point per game before in his career. Now, I'm not saying he can't, but if you look at his career averages, the odds of him actually hitting those numbers again, probably a little bit below 50%. But at any rate, yeah, Tuch to me stands out as a guy who's a great player. Really, I like Tuch's game a lot, but a little bit above point per game, probably not something he sustains this season. I want him to prove me wrong. Let me make this clear. I want some of these players to prove me wrong, especially Ullmark down here. Come on, I want more goalie hugs. Number 3, from the Oilers, another hardworking player whose numbers this year just seemed a little bit high. So, 36 goals, 47 assists, 83 points in 79 games for Hyman. Zach Hyman had a ridiculous season. Edmonton's power play had a ridiculous season. It'll be very difficult for the Oilers to match that kind of power play total again this year. I'm not going to say they can't, but it's going to be very difficult. And Zach Hyman, more than a point per game. You look at his career totals, odds are he drops below that number. So this isn't about guys falling off a cliff, just guys that will have difficulty matching the numbers they put up this past season. So Zach Hyman. Number 2, and this is kind of a predictable one. So Karlsson's in his mid-30s as well. And for Karlsson, he had as close to a perfect season as I've seen with him. He plays all 82 games, which is huge, him being healthy and all of that. 25 goals, 76 assists, 101 points. Very rare defenseman hits 100 points. And for Karlsson, he's been playing for a long time. Odds are he probably doesn't get to that number again this coming season. I won't say he can't. That's not a thing. But odds are he's not going to. And if he gets traded, I would say honestly, if he stays in San Jose, he probably has a better chance of hitting 100 points than he does if he goes to. And I'm using this as an example because there's no chance he's going there now, which is Carolina. They don't have the cap space, and they've added D'Angelo, so they're not picking him up. But for Karlsson, if he ended up going to a place like Carolina, he's going to be getting less opportunity. In San Jose, he's the guy. He's it. Offensively, if you're a coach at the bench right now, you're going, okay, you're passing to Karlsson, you're passing to Karlsson, and the whole board is just going to be a bunch of arrows pointing at Karlsson on that whiteboard. So Yeah, if he stays in San Jose, I think he has a better chance of getting back to 100 points. And number 1 on the board, and another player who is a very hard worker, who got rewarded for that this season with a ridiculous season that I think is going to be very difficult to repeat. And that's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who in 82 games had 37 goals, 67 assists, 104 points. The Oilers, again, that power play, absolutely crazy. I would expect that to drop at least a little bit. And for Nugent-Hopkins, I can see him being a point per game again. 104 points just seems high. So we'll see what happens this year. It's always fun to take a look at it and say, yeah, these guys may drop back this year, and then we'll see what happens, right? So let me know your picks. Looking through players' stats from this year, who do you think had a year that's going to be really difficult for them to repeat? And which players do you think are going to have a huge breakthrough year, that kind of thing. I'm going to be doing a video as well on bounce back candidates, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thanks again for watching during summer when hockey is not front of mind. It is greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.